ReQuest. It's me, Captain Logan. And joining me as always is the Day Ghost. Hello, Austin. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm pretty good. So these last two shows we've done pre-music.
Yeah.
On my end, I'm blasting Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, hoping to match it up so that when they go like they're welcoming in the band, that's when we start. And I got it perfect on the Monday show. It was like, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and then you're like, good evening, everyone. This one, it was slightly off, so that's unfortunate.
Can you not hear the lead of music?
No, I can, but I'm amusing myself.
Oh, okay. All right. He doesn't want to get into the same headspace that I'm trying to get into, apparently.
I'm getting ready for a show. I'm like, here we go. Like, we're introducing the show.
Sure, whatever it takes, man. You know, I used to listen to my favorite They Might Be Giants song right before interviews, back when I did more interviews.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's not my birthday. Well, the rain falls down without my help, I'm afraid. And I played that before every interview. And that would
for
whatever reason, that would get me the right headspace.
Yeah.
Anyway, tonight, Austin and I are going to review something requested by Jar Jar Ed on Patreon. Thanks very much to him. And as always, if you want to make a request for the show, you can go to patreon.com/geekvolution, and the $15 tier is where you can do that. Tonight, instead of a movie or a comic like we usually do, we're doing a TV pilot, and we sometimes will review TV pilots on this show. It doesn't come up as often. I will review things that like just a regular episode of a show that's not the first episode, if it's something I'm familiar with. And I would have done that with something from this show because I actually am familiar with this particular show. But we're doing the pilot because Austin has never seen it before. And the request was just in the first place, the pilot, because that's, usually what we do here. But this will be the first time that we're covering a pilot that I've actually seen a number of times.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
So that's fun. I've always wanted to cover this show in some capacity. Tonight we're going to talk about Children of the Gods, which is the two-part Stargate SG-1 pilot. This aired originally in 1997 and is I think 97 or 98. 97,
sure.
yes. July 27, 97. This was originally a Showtime show, and it stayed there for 5 years and then went to the Sci-Fi Channel, and I only ever knew Stargate as a Sci-Fi Channel show. So I was actually kind of surprised going back and realizing that it was on Showtime for as many years as it was.
Well, how many seasons did this get? I didn't look into that.
SG-1,
I know this was popular.
SG-1 is 10 seasons. It's the same length as Smallville. And when you get to the end of it, it has a pretty dramatically changed cast. Like, a lot of the original cast is still there or comes in and out. Anderson kind of semi-retires. And if memory serves, he's there occasionally, but he's not one of the main guys anymore. And
yeah, that was a thing that I did notice when I looked up who the actors were, because I watched the movie before the pilot, and I was like, oh, I wonder who is gonna play who when I get to the show.
Yeah,
and I did see that when I looked it up, that he goes down to just reoccurring.
Yeah, he goes down to recurring, and I think Hammond is still there some, but maybe not in every episode anymore. I don't remember, because I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to try not to say that constantly because Austin's not real familiar with this material. So Hammond, you might think would just be there for the first season or two. He's there almost all the way. He's like their Zordon. He just stays. Even Zordon dies. I don't know if Hammond ever gets killed off because I've never actually seen the last couple seasons more than an episode or two. And I'll talk about my history with the show here in a second. But what I was going to mention real quick is the last couple of seasons are the other three main characters from the beginning of this, so Captain Carter and Daniel and Teal'c, and then the cast of Farscape.
That's weird.
Because Farscape gets canceled. It didn't have enough viewership even on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it had a core base that loved it, but it was just an expensive show. And look, they had puppets, man. That was an expensive show. And they that show's crazy. I don't know if you've ever seen Farscape. I should cover some of that at some point. I've only ever seen the first half of the first season. I was binging it at one point and I fell off of it. But Anyway, it's gonna be hard not to just reminisce about the Sci-Fi Channel this whole time. But anyway,
The
yeah.
Sci-Fi Channel.
So the main, at least two of the main cast from that, I think the main guy and the girl from that, come on Stargate, and they're playing the exact same characters with different names.
Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah, it's great. So I don't know. This will just be a bunch of random tidbits from me about what I know about Stargate. Can I, real quick, Austin? Can I lay out my history with this a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, you can lay out yours real quick. What is your history?
Yeah, it only
with
goes
Stargate?
back to yesterday.
Last night, Austin watched and I'm really glad that you did this, Austin. He did kind of a little mini marathon on his own, and he watched the movie, the Roland Emmerich film, and the pilot for this, because the pilot is actually a direct sequel to the movie, and I haven't seen the movie in a long time, so your mind will be more fresh for that. You can help fill in blanks here and there with that, but if memory serves, I don't think they even retcon anything. Like, I think it fits perfectly story-wise, but the characterizations are slightly tweaked. Am I right about that?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, it's probably like a T2 to like a Sarah Connor Chronicles thing, right? Where like it doesn't really retcon anything, but like obviously it's going its own way, so like things are retooled a bit.
Tonally, it feels a little different, and you find yourself, even if you know the movie, or at least I did, almost like reimagining the film in the tone of the TV show.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it was easy for a lot of people watching the show to do that.
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of people jumped into the show not having seen the film, really. Like, this definitely had its own base and its own life, and like, obviously this spawned other series, and I'll talk about that in a second when I talk about my history with it, but I think a lot of people that are big fans of this show, and this show still has a ravenous fan base. It's still beloved by people, even though it's been off the air for so long, and it really is a like Galaxy Quest sort of scenario where people have stayed interested in it for all this time, and there hasn't been anything for like a decade and a half. A decade and a half? At least a decade.
Well, and that's one of my big questions coming into this video is why? Not why do people like it, just like why like this movie? Like why is this the thing that kind of ballooned out? Like that part I don't really like understand how that happened. But it's interesting.
Well, and you wouldn't think it would have the legs that it did, but after you watch a lot of the show, and if you look at the spinoffs and stuff, they got real creative with it. This is one of the better, in my mind, sci-fi mythologies, and they're real consistent with continuity. And I guess just right out the gate, right out the Stargate, I'll say one of the things I've always really appreciated about the show is just how much like Star Trek it is without just straight up ripping off Star Trek. Like it has, and there are places where it does, but totally unabashedly, totally unapologetically. When we get beaming technology a few seasons in, they just call it that. They just say, oh, this person beamed from here to here. That's what it is. That's what you'd call it. And there's a lot of like pop culture references and things in the show. It knows, like it keeps track of kind of real life stuff, and it's just weirdly down to earth. And so I've always really appreciated this show in particular, but Stargate at large as a television property, because it's it's got its edginess, and it can go to real dark places, of course, but it's an optimistic science fiction series set in present day. It doesn't have to go to the future to say we're going to be okay. It says right now we have a chance at making it. We just have to make the right choices, and I really, really appreciate that about it. Does it get real ham-fisted and sappy in places? Yeah, but so did TOS and TNG, and like that's part of the charm of it. If you watch more of this, Austin, you'll find that the first season is more comparable to TOS than anything. There's a lot of Kirk Star Trek in this show.
Oh, cool, because that's my Star Trek, so...
And not just because the second episode is called The Enemy Within, and then, like, the fifth episode, I think the fourth or fifth episode is the premise of TOS's Enemy Within. It's amazing. Because Enemy Within is just about, and spoilers, of course, Enemy Within is just about the guy, if memory serves, and I don't know the show super well, but I won't be able to speak episode title with this. I just remember the Enemy Within thing. That the end of this, there's the big cliffhanger of the army guy, the airman that gets possessed by a Goa'uld, and then oh no, what's gonna happen? There's an alien that's infiltrating the base, right?
And so it's like Days of Future Past.
Yeah, except it'll actually pay off. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's the enemy within, because that the Goa'uld is the enemy within, right? But then just a couple episodes later, we're gonna do the good Kirk, evil Kirk thing. With
Well, you got to do that with your sci-fi show.
Yeah, but like that early. And what's really funny is that's how early TOS did it. It is the same or almost the same in episode number as that. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's real early because I've seen that episode, and I've only seen like the first 12 episodes, I think.
And it's fun watching Anderson play that, by the way. When O'Neill gets the good Kirk, evil Kirk thing, it's great.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Rob Wren, Children of the Gods removed the cliffhanger, I believe, so it would stand on its own. Oh, interesting, because we watched a version that there must be multiple ways to watch this, because the version we watched was on Amazon, and it cuts out the nudity scene that I told you about. It's not in there. You were probably able to tell where it would have been, but it's not in there.
No, I got it. I had like, because it was.
Oh, you got it?
It was way farther than I thought, because you guys just said like, oh, there's boobs in it.
No, it's full frontal.
It's full frontal.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Okay, but I have to say I'm glad that you saw it, just because I've seen it before.
Yeah.
So we're on that's not what I mean. But we're on even footing here. Then it's been a long time. No, on Amazon here. Okay, so did what you saw, because what I saw was not split into two parts. It was the full 2-hour pilot, but it did have the cliffhanger. Did you get the cliffhanger?
Yeah, with the Days of Future Past, I think, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So I'm not sure what Rob Wren is saying. Maybe there's even a third cut of it that takes that out.
Was it maybe like a VHS or something? Like we released it for home, and it was just like that episode, like kind of released as like Children of the Gods,
yeah, possible,
like that type of thing. Because we used to do that a lot.
Yeah,
like maybe they did that and cut the ending.
I don't know.
That's
really interesting. But yeah, so real quick, I'll talk just real briefly about my history with this. I started watching SG-1. I think I had seen an episode here and there back when like a few years after it started, maybe, but I started like actively paying attention to it the year I met my wife. Actually, I met a guy who was obsessed with Stargate, and he would not stop badgering me to watch more of it, and I was like, fine, it's a sci-fi thing, I'm sure I'll enjoy it. So I just watched it so he would leave me the hell alone.
It's always the best way to watch something.
It is, yeah. No, I love it when people push me. Like, look, like if you want to force me to watch something now, you have to pay me $15. I'm sorry. That's just how it goes. Call me money grubbing. I don't like being guilt tripped into watching things. So, But I did it with that. It was the summer. I was bummed because Sarah was leaving town for 3 whole months, and we had just started dating a few months before that, and I wasn't going to see her the entire summer, and I needed something to do. And so I swam every day. I was in the best shape of my life. I swam every day, and I watched Stargate, and that's what I did that summer. Say it again.
Said, but not on camera.
No, I did not swim on camera, no. I think that's maybe also the summer that I watched Firefly for the first time. But I digress. So, or maybe that was later. I don't remember. Anyway, whatever. It's not important. So, I watched the first season and enjoyed it, but it passed the pilot. It was a little bit hammier than I wanted it to be, and I fell off of it. And then at some point, I watched, again, like bits and pieces. I watched some of 2, some of 3, and I jumped around some. And I used to do that more with shows. I watch things in order now. Back then, I jump around some. And then...
It was a lot easier back then.
Yeah, and then I saw the Atlantis pilot when it aired, and thought that was really interesting, but didn't keep going with it. And then at one point, that was streaming on Netflix or somewhere, and I binged the whole thing. So I've seen all of Atlantis. I watched all 5 seasons of that, and loved it. Its episodes get kind of repetitive. There's way too many episodes where McKay gets stuck in a room and has to figure out how to come up with some kind of way to MacGyver his way out. That reference is in this episode, so I thought I'd say it here. But
Yeah, I thought that was a little too cutesy.
I
don't
liked
know.
it. I don't care. I thought it was fine. I didn't need the insert shot of
That's
Anderson
what makes it too
reacting to
cutesy.
it, but
It's
the
when it
line
cuts
is
to him.
but the line is fine.
No, if it was just the line, I wouldn't think anything. It's the fact that they cut to him and he goes like,
Yeah,
it's like that's a little too cutesy.
That
I
was
didn't need that part.
that was a little bit much. Yes, indeed. But
the
anyway,
line-
and then I watched the first season of Universe when that was on, and that is tonal whiplash, man. You think the movie at SG-1 is whiplash? Wait till you see Universe, because that was right after Battlestar Galactica ended, and they went, we need something like that still on our network. So they went with exactly the tone of Battlestar, or really, really close, but for a Stargate thing, and it doesn't even feel like you're in the same universe. They couldn't figure out how to do the DS9 thing where it still feels enough like you're in the same world, like it's still Star Trek. But anyway, that's my background with Stargate. And also I'll say last year I was finally trying to catch up more on this show, and I watched through like middle of 4, I think. And I've seen disparate episodes here and there of most of the seasons, and I've seen the one of the TV movies they did. I think is it Continuum? I forget. There's a time travel movie they did that I liked quite a bit. But anyway, so yeah, I'm a casual fan of this. I'm not like a giant Stargate mega fan, but I feel like if I had just stuck with it, I probably would be.
Mhm.
You know, I really like this show. I like Atlantis like a tad more, but I really like this show.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how familiar you were with the Stargate stuff, but I knew that you liked it at least a little bit because you were like, oh yeah, Stargate.
And the movie has my favorite pinball machine of all time.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
little known fact, which I almost bought like a year ago, and decided I didn't want to drop $3,000 on a pinball machine, and I wasn't totally sure I was going to put it, so I did not end up doing that. But yeah, that's my favorite physical pinball machine. Anyway, Austin, I'm gonna put you on the spot like I always do, even though I'm more familiar with this than you are. Would you give us a brief synopsis of the pilot, just because it will be fun to watch you squirm, and then tell us what you thought of it. Tell us what your first impressions are of Stargate as a franchise, and tell us if this is a worthy pilot. Go ahead.
Okay, so the Stargate pilot is a sequel to the Stargate movie, of course, and we're dealing with all of the stuff that happened there. And basically, people like these alien, or no, they're not aliens, but like these people, they come through their Stargate, which is like a portal to different locations.
Well, they are
And
they are and they aren't, because some of them are possessed by aliens.
no, and that's true. They got their weird stomach X's.
Well, and actually,
That part's cool.
the Jaffas are not possessed. They're like carrying. I wasn't sure. I was going to ask you if you got that whole thing, because on just watching the pilot, I don't know how well that comes out.
Hmm. That they're not possessed like some of the other people are.
Yeah, that they're like the Goa'uld are like gestating in
Mhm.
their stomachs,
Yeah.
and they're saving them to eventually possess whoever they decide is the worthy host.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think what's his face? Teal'c. I think he mentions that when he like shows off that he has one too.
He kind of half explains it, but
Mhm.
the first time I saw it, I was like, well, wait, is there a symbiotic relationship? Like, is it affecting him in any way? But yeah, it's just gestating. He just hangs on to it, and he has it. I don't know when they ever get rid of it, but he has it for a really long time.
Mhm. Oh, okay. Weird. Yeah, so they need to figure out what's going on with these people that attacked them, and they get not Kurt Russell, who's MacGyver, and they go through the portal to find not David Spade, who's a guy I don't know, and then they got to figure stuff out, and uh, Wait, did I say not David Spade? Not David
You
Spader.
did say
Two
not David
completely
Spade, and I
different,
was like, I'm pretty sure David Spade didn't play Daniel Jackson.
two completely different people.
That would have
Not David
been really
Spader.
interesting casting, though.
It would have been awesome casting. So the bad alien people, they take his wife and mind control her with their stomach X worm, and they got to get her back. And they go to prison and escape, and they meet a guy named Teal'c, who's the god of war now. Uh, lot happens.
He was in The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, who is he in Rises?
There's one, he was supposed to have a bigger role, and it sucked that they ripped it away from him. There's that one scene where they have the mercenaries on the ice
Yeah, yeah, I
that
remember that
fight
scene. Yeah.
Batman, and he's the big black guy that fights Batman in that scene. That's Teal'c.
Okay, weird.
Yeah, and I recognized him immediately in the theater because he does the eyebrow thing that he does. Teal'c is always just like looking like this. He's got like the Rock thing without it ever reminding me of the Rock.
I need to look for that now just to see some guy do that to Batman.
Yeah, no, it's great. He just shows up and he's like, and you're like, why is Teal'c fighting Batman? And I don't mean to pigeonhole the man. I wish he had a bigger career and he did other things, but it was almost like they did it on purpose. It's like, okay, do your Teal'c thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, that's so funny.
That was a wonderful synopsis. Thank you so much. I appreciate
you.
the having the well. I guess I'm a little bit of two minds about it, but I like that you've got right away major character motivations for both. For two of your big leads for both Daniel and O'Neill, because they've both lost someone in all of this that's been possessed by a Goa'uld, and they're trying to get them back. And there's a question from the beginning about whether or not the Goa'uld can ever be fully removed from the human being. Like is the human just buried, or is that person gone? Are they dead inside? And it's a long time before you get the answer to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
long enough that I don't entirely even remember what the answer is, but it's a while before you get the answer to that.
Yeah, I figured you wouldn't fully wrap that up till the season finale, but I don't know, obviously.
Yeah. The reason I say I'm of two minds about it, I'll just get into a couple of little criticisms real quick, and then I want to hear you compare it to the movie. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
I don't know. I'm excited to talk about this for whatever. I've never gotten to talk about Stargate before. So what's weird about it is it's a little bit. It reads a little contrived so that you'll have that extra bit of character motivation to plunge us into a series. These guys need more of a reason to stay on this team than exploration, and so that gives them that. And Carter does not need more of a reason. She's been studying the Stargate. She wants to go through the network and find everything she can find, so she doesn't have to lose anything personally. We don't need a tragic backstory for her, but everybody else kind of needs one to stay on that team. But the problem is, there are tons of people from Abydos that the Goa'uld could have picked, and it's like we pick Daniel's wife because she's important, and like I guess that god decided that she was the hottest, so that's who he grabbed. But like there are all these women there, and I guess I appreciate that we have one token one that gets killed, and then we move on to another one, but you get the sense that there's going to be a whole bunch of them. Nope, we just move on right to Daniel's wife. And then the kid, Skara, who, if memory serves, is actually the only person played by the same actor from the movie. I think that's the same kid.
Oh, interesting. I assumed it wasn't, but I didn't really think too much about it.
I looked this up at one point. It's been a long time, but I think I'm right about it. I think we can look it up, but I think Skara, somebody will tell us in the comments, I think Skara is the same actor from the film. But anyway, and then he gets grabbed. There's all these different people that they could have grabbed, but he's important, so we grabbed him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's got that like dramatic TV show thing where it's got to be just the characters that we care about, or like related to the ones that we care about.
Okay, so real quick, let me read this super chat, and actually a couple of super chats. These will go quick. Bob the Hun, $2 super chat. Thanks so much. Austin got the good version, the one with the nudity, I guess, is the good version. And Rob Wren, 1999 super chat. I love the MacGyver references along with the camp. Thanks for the review, Cap and Austin. Oh, you're welcome, and thanks so much for the hefty super chat. I really appreciate the
Yeah, that's
support there.
crazy, sir.
Thank you very, very much.
Was there multiple references to MacGyver? I only caught the one. But
Well, he may mean just through the series,
That's
as
true,
opposed to
too.
just the pilot,
That's
because
true, too.
yeah, you'll have little bits here and there, especially just any time he's got to get himself out of a situation. You're immediately going to think, okay, he needs a watch crystal.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so how did you feel about the movie versus the show in tone and enjoyability and all of that, Austin? And would you call the pilot campy? Because looking at it this time, I remember this first season being pretty campy. I didn't get that a great deal from the pilot. It's episodes after that. But did that thought ever enter into your head?
For it being campy, like not really. I don't think. Like not more so than anything that's kind of like this end of that era. Um, but
Yeah.
like I don't know. Like
This
it's
is the
of its
same year as
time.
Buffy.
Certainly.
It's not any campier than that.
Yeah. Uh, no, absolutely. No, I mean like it's of its time, but I don't think that's like really a thing against it. But I mean, not that he thinks that being campy is a thing against it, but you
No,
know what I mean?
he loves the camp. He wants
Yeah.
more of it, sir.
Well, I mean, it's good if it gets more campy. As for the movie, so part of why I wanted to watch the movie was just because Roland Emmerich sucks, and I was like, hey, this Roland Emmerich movie ballooned out into this huge series. Clearly, there has to be something here. And there isn't, but the show is also like pretty cool, so it like makes it seem like there is. Um,
I don't wholly agree with that, but sorry, continue.
no, it's okay. My experience going from the movie to the show was like, oh my god, like this. I'm so bored watching this. Like, I'm worried about watching this show. And then I got to the pilot, and it was immediate, like just instantly, like, oh, no, this was pretty good. Like, this is just that done better. Because I do think Stargate has a cool premise. It's just also a Roland Emmerich movie, and it's less Roland Emmerich-y than a lot of his other movies. Like, it doesn't have the giant cast or anything, but there's a lot of just like his hallmarks that I don't really like. And then on top of that, I just think it's kind of boring.
Yeah, and I've always felt that way about it to some degree too. I think I've liked it more on repeat viewings, and I did a rewind on it years ago. Somebody requested that, and like I said, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I think I liked it more after doing that. I think this premise is more interesting with a network, and you have to give it that so that there's any reason to have an episodic television show. Obviously, like
Yeah, absolutely.
this is the clear way to pivot into a serialized format. Is okay, it's not just two Stargates that go between two planets, but there's actually this whole network. And do you know what the premise of Atlantis is? Atlantis
Nope.
is, oh, there's an eighth chevron. And if you can unlock that, then you've got this whole other set of Stargates that go to different galaxies.
Oh,
So you
okay.
can get to another galaxy, and when you go there, it's got its own network of just galactic stargates like ours, but they look different. They're like white and stuff. They have a different type of glyph, and they're not quite as Egyptian.
No, they're
great.
Atlantean. Oh no, that's pretty fun. No, it's a great premise. Like when I was watching the show, it made me realize that more and more. And like there's stuff in the movie where I was watching and went like, "Oh, like this is a cool idea. Like I like the aesthetic of it, but I'm not liking the movie." But I had
So
more
much
with
of
the
it is
show.
atmosphere and stuff, and if you don't like stuff set in a desert, that movie is not for you, man. It is Dune without the intrigue.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so that was really nice. And going in because Kurt Russell's like one of my favorite actors, and like I love Kurt Russell and everything, and he like immediately bumps everything up. He's so wasted and like nothing in that movie. So like there was no real jump between him and MacGyver. It was like, oh, here's this actor I love. He gets nothing to do. Here's this other actor I don't really know anything about. He actually gets material to work with. So like, yeah,
Well, and
it's a
and
bump
the
up.
the irony with that, because I agree with that. The irony is Anderson has this, like, the show plays up this gravitas with him, like this gives us credibility and star power. And so he feels like this huge major A-list actor, even if you've never seen him in anything, just because that's the attitude the show has about him.
Oh, absolutely. It's like here's like this really big popular TV actor at the time. Like we're bringing him in. Like, isn't it awesome that our show has this guy? And it's like, yeah, no, he's good in it.
And
Yeah.
and he lives up to that. Like, he really
Mhm.
carries that show. And when you're comparing him to other like big sci-fi leading guys, like a Kirk or somebody, he's got his own affect, and it's that kind of like Lethal Weapon, I don't give a crap about anything kind of attitude, which was real novel at that right then. Like,
Mhm.
we do that kind of thing all the time with characters now, but to have somebody that comes in and is that loose and informal and doesn't care what anybody thinks of him and like could die tomorrow, not that big of a deal, like, it's really fun.
Well, he's playing a Kurt Russell character, and Kurt Russell was playing a Roland Emmerich character.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the scientist guy, and I think David Spader does a pretty good job in the movie. But like, he's just every Roland Emmerich lead, where he's like the nerdy scientist guy, and like, I don't know, he felt like more of a character when I got to the show. It
Yeah.
wasn't just, oh, you're plugging in your formula, because this is what all of your movies have.
And then the movie forgot to cast Carter, so it was nice that she was here.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I'm just kidding. What did you think of? I'm just gonna jump around a second. What did you think of the reproductive organs on the inside speech?
Um, so I was like, if this was something that came out now, I'd probably roll my eyes, but I don't know, it was fine.
It's
It was
it's a little
whatever.
dated.
It's typical. Like
Even
I've
at
seen a
that
million
time,
things
I
like
I
that.
found myself. I'm sorry. What were we saying?
Oh no, I've seen a million things do that, and especially at that time. Like almost everything coming out in that period was like, we need to stop and like have the moment where like the female character does that. And I
Yeah.
think because of that, I just kind of settled in and went like, yeah, like this is just of the time. So it didn't really bother me that much, but
What I like
yeah.
about it is it plays, because that's another thing I'm a little bit of two minds about. I tend to, even at that time, and if I'd watched this in 97, I probably, I'm like 13, 14 years old, but I probably would have still rolled my eyes at it, where I'm like, haven't we progressed a little bit past this? Like, Xena's got her own TV show. I don't know. Like why are we doing that? Is it really that big of a deal that there's women in the military? The show opens with a scene with a woman with a bunch of guys in the military who's fitting in just fine. I mean, unfortunately, she's going to die later because an alien decides that she's not hot enough. So that's unfortunate.
That scene also has, I thought, like a line that was pretty funny for just like a meta thing where they go like, "Oh yeah, we've had a bunch of budget cuts." It's like that's kind of funny.
I
They're like,
missed
"Yeah, we've been
that.
taking all these personnel out. You know, there's like no one here anymore."
That's great. Base looks a little smaller, maybe.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, that's a funny line."
I missed that. That's great. Or I missed
One
that.
of
That's
the
what it was
first lines
doing.
of the episode. It's really funny.
That's really great. Yeah, it's got a killer opening scene, man. Like, it sucks you right in.
No, absolutely. No, there's quite a few scenes where I was like way more invested and like tense or like whatever, like enjoying the action more than the movie, which like blew my
Isn't
mind.
that weird? Because it's a budget TV show,
Yeah, and
or
like
at
you
least
could
it's
tell.
comparatively. I mean, it's Showtime, so for TV, it's got a better budget than some other things might. But
hmm No, and
and
like
it looks good, dude.
yeah,
The CG for TV in '97 looks fantastic.
no, that's pretty crazy, especially with the Stargate itself.
That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Yeah, like with the wormhole and the effect they do when we
Absolutely.
go through it. Now that's stock footage they'll use 150,000 times.
Yeah, they even used it like 3 or 4 times in the episode.
Every time we go in it. Were you surprised that the teleporting rings, they looked okay? That they had
Uh,
from the movie?
okay, yeah. No, a lot of the stuff should look worse going from the movie to the show. Even I said this to Cap off camera. There's like the big head henchmen guys. When they showed up, I was like, okay, they're kind of like Power Rangey now. But like they don't look too bad. And then like their masks pop open, and in the movie, it's all CGI where like it folds open and it looks really bad. And just the fact that it was actually like a prop that opened, like it impressed me, and it like I went like, oh, okay, yeah, like it's not super expensive looking, but it's cool that it can do this when the movie couldn't.
Yeah. The only thing that's a little silly about it is, and I don't know how often later on they'll actually show that. Is that a? Are we sure that's an actual practical effect? I guess it must be.
I think so. It looks like it.
But the only thing that's a little bit silly about it is every time the serpent head comes down, it doesn't come down all the way, and Teal'c is like peeking up out of it, and then the rest of it finally recedes, and now he's good. But I just want him to walk around like this all the time.
No, and they still look silly and Power Rangey. It just it impressed me that it was like an actual functioning thing.
Yeah, and I get why you're saying Power Rangers, but then at the same time, it's also very Egyptian. Like,
Well, I just mean like in terms of like suit quality, but no, absolutely.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it's like so they got these on loan from Saban.
Yeah, exactly. It was the Egypt episode.
What I was gonna say,
They were the putties.
going back to the kind of if you feel like it's forced, the kind of forced feminist thing. When she has that quick speech, what I really like about it is that they get it out of the way right away, where they're like, "Look, guys, it's not gonna be this kind of show." You know what I mean? Like at first she's like, "Oh, you don't like me because I'm a woman." He's like, "No, I don't have a problem with you being a woman. I don't like scientists." And you
like
buy
that
it,
part.
and there's no sexist bone in his body. He's not going to have any from then on. I don't know that it will ever come up again, or if it does, it's real few and far between. Like we make that point to get it out of the way because you're expecting it, and then to make it clear what his actual hangups are. I like that a lot, but also so that I think it is maybe smart in that era to some degree to go ahead and get out of the way where it's like she's not gonna be eye candy for this show. She's not the sex symbol. She's not Seven of Nine. She's not Deanna Troy. Like she's one of the guys who happens to be female and will be effeminate when she needs to be because she's a woman and they'll write her that way. But yeah, and Carter's wonderful. The whole cast is really good.
Absolutely.
And they have such a great chemistry, and it's one of those great TV families.
Yeah, and I bet as it goes on, it gets even better, where we get to flesh out each character a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have what I do with Teal'c toward the end? I want to get back to some criticisms real quick because I'm polishing the helmet of this a lot because I really love this show, but I and the pilot quite a bit, and I think it's really ambitious. Like you were talking about how. Moving from the movie to the show, you expect things to look worse. Like we've got ships firing, and we've got all that action at the end with the with the spears. What are those things called? I forget. They have a name.
I can't remember. Yeah, that stuff definitely does look TV, but I'm more invested. So, like,
yeah.
I care more about that action that's not like especially cinematic than I do the big end climax where they have like 1,000 extras run down a desert in the movie.
Yeah,
because I don't care.
That is on the tip of my tongue. I had an opportunity to buy one of those ones at a con, but it was $1,000, and I was like, I don't have that right now. But there was like a spectacular replica that I really wanted, and I was like, I'm not gonna pay $1,000 for this. But anyway, do you have the thing I do with Teal'c where I get what they're doing, but I feel like it's a little rushed? That all O'Neill has to do is make eye contact with him, and he knows that one Jaffa is going to defect against the Goa'uld, and it's also a little bit weird that nobody else backs him.
No, I had a moment where I went like, did I miss a scene? Like, is there something missing? There's not, but I had that too.
So I think the one thing you're maybe missing, unless you noticed it, but the question is, did O'Neill, and even if he did, is it enough? There's one, like 2 commercial breaks before that, there's a bit where is it Apophis? Because the movie's Ra, and then this is Apophis, right? You had the sun god and the night god. So Apophis does something horrible because every scene he does something horrible, and Teal'c has he has the same stoic expression he's always got, or just his the mad face that's like stuck on his that's stuck on him all the time. That's Teal'c. He's
he's the god of war.
Yeah, I love him. And he, I don't know how you hold that all the time, but your mom said your face would get stuck that way, but Teal'c, he's okay. Sorry, I know his name and it's just not coming to me right away.
It's Christopher Judge.
Christopher Judge, thank you very much. Anyway, there's a shot that's a real close-up insert. You know how you can tell when a show or a movie is trying to make sure that you pick up on something that's supposed to be subtle, but the camera is making it not subtle. That's what's going on there, where it's like, oh, this guy, like he's gonna be, God, I can't think of people's names today. The stormtrooper guy from the new Star Wars movies.
Finn.
Finn. He's gonna be Finn, right? He's gonna finally like defect and go against these things that he doesn't agree with in the first place, and so I think that's supposed to be the tell, but like that's not enough of a tell.
Yeah, no, I had the same thing as you, where it was like, this feels like it could have been fleshed out a little bit more, but like, it's a pilot, so we got to get all of our characters together by the end.
Yeah, and I think even still in a pilot, all you have to do, like, you don't have time to give a lot of backstory and the reason that he's either more bothered by all this than the others, or decides he has not enough to lose or anything. But I mean, the big thing that I'm not getting on a first-time watch is why don't, and I guess even now it's weird, right? Like, these are all slaves. They're all there because they're forced to be. So when Teal'c gets an out, the other ones also have an out. You'd think at least a couple of them would follow him. But it's like, no, the show, it's contrived. The show wants one token Jaffa.
Yeah, it's like with anything, right? Like whenever we do something like that, it's always just the one, because that's the character we want to have. You can't have more than that.
Oh, the shock staff, thank you.
Such an easy name too.
I know, I couldn't think of it. Well, I feel like there's other things they call it too that is not coming to, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, so that's weird. And then on the same note, it's way too rushed and easy to get the premise in there that we're not just using the Stargate to go and rescue our friends, but to do Star Trek and go explore.
TV show.
Yeah. Because that is not immediately where a White House would go with that, I wouldn't think, until things were more equal. Like, I kind of get, and I don't know, it's weird, like, it's almost cynical and optimistic at the same time, right? It's like, oh, well, we've got to go, is it supposed to be wide-eyed and bushy-tailed? We're going to go explore the universe because we have a chance to make our world better or learn more, because that's the way, Carter kind of talks about it. Or from whoever the president is, from his perspective, you would expect it would be a lot more like, well, we've got to exploit every resource we can possibly exploit, right? Like whatever it is. But you'd think that national security would trump that initially when you know nothing about what's out there. Like this is starting from, we almost got invaded. Like Apophis sent his people here to attack us, and we find out there's a network of Stargates, and what we take from that is, let's go explore a bunch of planets and keep using this thing. Okay.
Yeah, this is what happens when your president just plays saxophone all day.
You maybe wouldn't get that as much in a show made now for a streaming service or something, because it's that it's that having our cake and eating it too, being two things at the same time thing that we're doing in the late 90s, where serialized storytelling is starting to take over more, but we have a lot of shows that are hybrids where it's the X-Files thing where you have to have your, because you're doing 22 or more episode seasons. I think this was 26 maybe, like Star Trek. You have to do your standalone episodes and also your mythology episodes. So if we're not going out and exploring, we don't have an excuse to find random planets and just have cool one-off episodes. And we don't want to let Daniel Jackson find his wife until like season 4.
Wait, actually?
Yeah, it's gonna be that long.
I assumed it was the finale of season 1.
If memory, so I could be mistaken. I could be wrong about this. I think it's 3 or 4 before they actually resolve that. Maybe they find her like once or twice before that. But like,
crazy.
Yeah, because and that's like I'm looking at this with a broader lens than you are. What's frustrating about the pilot for me and setting up the premise of this is it wants to be two things at once that don't really go together. Like the end of this pilot, you get this massive sense of urgency. Daniel Jackson has to be on this team. He's got to rush out and go find his wife. And then most episodes are, oh, we found this planet. Let's go check that out. Like Star Trek.
Yeah. No, he's living the American dream. He doesn't have his wife anymore, so he can go have adventures.
And like, I get that you don't have a lot to go on. You don't have a lot of clues. So you have to just keep dialing out and hoping for the best and seeing what planets, you wind up on, and hopefully eventually you'll find something. But like, they contrive it so that they just so rarely discover anything.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I guess it's different because you've seen more of it. Well, I'm just kind of assuming things off of the pilot.
Yeah.
So I assumed that we would deal with a lot more of this earlier on than I guess they do. Like, I did assume it would go more episodic, at least for like a while, and then maybe come back like mid-season and then finale.
And it does. And they do that. Like, we do keep running into the Goa'uld a lot, but if memory serves, it's a long time before we actually resolve this
Wrap
stuff
that up, yeah.
with his wife, and like maybe the kid we deal with that at the end of the season. I can't remember. I'm rusty, and like a lot of this I haven't seen in a really long time, because when I went back and tried to start doing a watch again, I always go back to first season, so I've seen the first like 5 or 6 episodes a few times, and then I'm like, this season's really slow. And so last year, I just jumped into like the middle of season 2 and was like, I'm finally gonna move forward and binge this whole show. And I got through 4. I got through part of 4.
Yeah, and like, it's interesting, like the way that you look at TV, right? Because for me, I'm like, I would take this over like 8 hours of just this plot, where like, okay, we got to go get the wife, and then it's just that for like 8 hours.
Oh no, that's true, and I'm with you. This show is more fun and more interesting with the episodic stuff. The problem is just
that stuff's kind of stretched out too far, and not.
It's just weird that you've got this big sense of urgency at the end of this, and then you'll have episodes where it's easy to forget that Daniel Jackson even has that motivation. That's what's weird about it.
It's like playing an RPG, it sounds like, where like you'll play like whatever, like Fallout or something, and it's like, okay, you're on the main quest, like you got to do this. It's really important. I don't really want to play that right now. I'm gonna go do like a side mission.
I have such a hard time, and I've talked about this several times before. But my best example, because I'm not a big modern gamer,
Arkham City.
I get to the what's effectively the third act of Arkham City, and Protocol 10 will commence in however many hours. But I can still go do side missions and stave it off, and it's weird. Like, it feels like there's a countdown clock, like a ticking time bomb, but there should be a time limit, but there's not a time limit. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it feels like.
It's because you're playing in cap time. I can beat that game in a night.
No, I know, but especially the first time you play it, it's weird. It's like, and especially because I was enjoying the story, so I waited forever to do any of the side stuff, and I'm like, oh crap, I have to do all the side stuff before the protocol thing is over. I'm not gonna get to do any of it.
Well, I just recently played Arkham Knight, and it was like, oh, I gotta go save Barbara. I don't care about that. I'm gonna go do whatever. I'm just gonna go fight people on the street.
I'm gonna go drive my car and solve Riddler puzzles. Alex409, have you binged the other Stargate shows? Just Atlantis, and then Universe. I watched the first season when it was on. I actually watched it week to week, and I don't think I ever watched the second season because for some reason I fell off of it, and I decided to wait until the whole season dropped, and then it got canceled, and then I had a hard time getting excited about it. So basically, the same thing I did with Sarah Connor when that was on, because I was watching some of that as it was on, and then I fell off of it, and then when the second season got canceled, I was like, I guess I don't care. Or after the second season, so I never finished that until Austin and I talked about it, which was one of the first things we ever did together.
Well, so I have a question. I was like talking about the other shows,
Yes.
because this is owned by Amazon now. Would you like to see them try to come up with something else with Stargate, or do you think it should just be left alone at this point?
No, I think there's every reason to do another show. I hope it's in this continuity. I don't want to see it rebooted because it's just like Star Trek. There's so much there. It's such a rich, living and breathing shared universe that you jump forward and just tell a cool story. Don't do a prequel. They tried a prequel like web film. They had like
weird.
a $5 budget, and I watched that, and that was god awful. That was rough. I'm surprised the Stargate wasn't made of paper mache in that. I mean, it was rough looking. Jareth Gearhart, I've only seen the film. What series should I watch first? Definitely watch these in order. This is one of those shows or one of those franchises where you've got some overlap. So you watch SG-1 up to, is it season 4 or 5? I don't actually know anymore. I forget now. But watch that up to Atlantis, and then watch Atlantis, because and you can do either the thing where you watch some of this and then you watch Atlantis and then you come back to it, or you can try to figure out what episodes were on at what times and go back and forth. But there's a decent amount of overlap, and I think that there's some stuff that would be spoiled for you if you watched things out of order. But yeah, I also think that Atlantis watches fairly well by itself, but there are characters from this show that come in and out, and Amanda Tapping is kind of the Carter is the character that spins it off, so she's there. I think it's her. Is it Daniel? Is it both? I don't remember. One or both of them are in the pilot for Atlantis, and then it kind of goes off on its own. So I don't know. You probably want to have at least seen a few episodes of the show before you watch that, if you're just interested in that premise or anybody in that cast. Robert Picardo is a main character in the 5th season, who played the Doctor in Star Trek Voyager, and I think he's introduced in this show and then goes to that later on. I'm surprised by how much of this is coming back to me. I'm suddenly remembering character names from Atlantis, like the main. I try not to give too much away for people that haven't seen that stuff, but it has a more kind of tragic leader character than O'Neill. So it's got Weir, and all I'll say is she's not there the whole show. But anyway, they go some really cool directions in that show, and it's a little darker than the show usually is.
Oh, cool.
Hayden Spring, is this or Atlantis better? I've not seen this whole show, but from what I have seen, I do prefer Atlantis. But again, that's not giving it a fair shake because I've watched all of Atlantis, but that's also half as long as this.
Well, I think it's easy to sample like a show and be like kind of decide whether you think it's better than another show, just based on what you've seen, even if you haven't seen everything.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just I like both of these shows, but like it's always possible that there's a later season that's just such a killer season it beats out anything that Atlantis had, and I just haven't had that. Like, on cast and premise, I put them right together.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a really good show, and then on season 10 it becomes really good.
That's probably not the case, but I think it more or less holds on to its quality. Fans of the show
I hear about is
liked
like
it all the way
dropping
through.
Off, so I don't know.
We're almost in an hour. What specifically from the pilot haven't we talked about that you wanted to address? having never looked at this stuff before.
The coolest thing in this, I already mentioned it, but the coolest thing is uh, when you first see the stomach's X, and then like the little creature comes out. I was like, whoa, this one like crazy.
It's like the Trill in Deep Space Nine, and you haven't watched any DS9, so you don't even have, so you haven't even had that situation yet.
No, I need to now though. If there's more stuff like that, that's cool.
A little bit. They're not as crazy and creepy looking, but they do have symbiotes that go through the stomach just like that, and it's the same sort of prosthetic.
Hmm. Okay. No, that was really cool, and like I think partly because I wasn't expecting anything like that on a TV budget, and like it's not super crazy, but it was like way farther than I expected.
Yeah.
So that was cool. What do
Um.
you have for anything?
Yeah. There was something else I wanted to mention. I think we were talking about how good the premise is initially, and how this is a point that you made, and how the show actually takes full advantage of it. Right. Um. We're real smart about like coming up with intelligent reasons for some things that have to be in the show. Some things I think are shoehorned in a little bit too easy, like I talked about earlier. But one thing I actually was really impressed with on another watch that I'd forgotten about is the idea that uh, like using real science. Again, it feels like Star Trek in that it's like you guys probably actually had a consultant and you paid attention to the science consultant, right? The idea that the universe is ever expanding and the planets wouldn't be in the same place, in the same positions in alignment as they were thousands of years ago when the pyramids were originally built. And I've also always just liked the idea, the premise of, okay, aliens really did build the pyramids. Go like that's fun, but the idea is, uh, the network doesn't work anymore because if you use the exact coordinates they were using back then, you wouldn't show up at those stargates. You can't dial them, and the only reason that we could dial the one we could dial with Abydos is because it's so close to Earth. But if we waited a few more thousand years, it wouldn't be anymore. That's all really smart. Like that all makes perfect sense.
Yeah, no, like it's obviously like a retconny thing of like now there's more than just the one, but they do it in a smart way, so you don't question it. You just go like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But if you like aliens building pyramids, just wait till we get to the Alien versus Predator movie, sir.
Is this a thing that you would consider looking more at?
Probably. I don't know if I'll have time because I'm really bad at watching shows. But
No,
like,
I
I would
know.
watch more. I would watch more of this. It was pretty good.
Yeah, no,
I still gotta go back and watch TOS.
no, I know you have that with TV shows, but I'm just saying, like, if time is no object and you were going to watch anything, like, would this be, in your like,
Yeah, I would watch more of this.
top 20 or 30 shows you consider looking at after having seen some of it?
No, absolutely. Like I said, it was a pretty cool episode and a lot better than the movie.
Alex409 says Brad Wright was at one point. Oh, I remember this now that you say it. Was at one point developing a new Stargate series before Amazon bought MGM.
Interesting.
Let me interject real quick and say I think I can't remember if this was before or after the buyout. I think it was before. At one point, MGM was talking about doing a like Stargate movie trilogy that wouldn't have anything to do with the show, but was
Just
either
kind of reboot.
I don't know if it was I can't remember if it was a reboot or if it was sequels, but I think Emmerich was supposed to be involved again.
Oh
And I was
no.
like, oh no.
No.
So I'm glad that never happened, and hopefully it never does. But anyway, he says so Wright was going to make a new Stargate series before Amazon bought MGM. The new series would have supposedly involved the Stargate program being made public. And I forgot that never actually happens, but that would be great. That would be the next logical step. And it'd be cool to go back and do an Earth-based show like years after SG-1 that's not SG-1 anymore. After you did two shows that are not Earth-based.
Mm-hmm.
Just get
Yeah,
back to the brass tacks of it. It's kind of like what Enterprise should have been. It's like instead of doing a prequel, let's just go back to the initial premise and do something cool and new with it and move forward. That's what Gate should do. So I don't think it's ever too late to come back to this continuity.
No, and I mean, there's a ton of stuff to do. Obviously, like I haven't seen everything else, so like as far as I know, maybe everything's been done. But it seems like you have kind of limitless possibilities just based on premise.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Hmm.
But anyway, this got me wanting to take the time out to finally finish the show, like I've started doing last year, and I've been wanting to rewatch Atlantis forever. Good news is these shows are really cheap on disc. If you ever want to own them and you don't have to and you don't want to worry about paying for a subscription to watch them, and there have been periods where SG-1 is nowhere to be found, so like it keeps coming in and out of Amazon. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. Right now it's there, but like I think part of the reason I dropped off actually was because Amazon lost it. I forgot about that.
Well, now that they own it, I would hope that it would just stay there forever, but who knows?
You can't trust that, right?
Yeah,
We just had a
because
whole
even
conversation about this
here,
on Monday with streaming
yeah,
services and superhero films.
because even here, MGM is like a separate subscription you have to get on Amazon, and like that was the way I had to get this and the movie. So like, I don't know, like that's weird. You own this stuff, Amazon.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't think Atlantis and Universe are there, but I might be wrong. Because I haven't actually looked into that recently, but because I forgot that they bought this. Let me check that real quick.
Well, I had to question it a second ago when I initially said that Amazon would own this because trying to understand what MGM still had the rights to when they uh like were bought out is a
Yeah,
whole other
it's
headache.
yeah, I'm right. Atlantis is not on Amazon, so
Okay.
I'm gonna assume Universe isn't either. But you can buy the whole thing for like $55,
That's not bad.
and Universe is on Prime. That's weird. So you can't watch Atlantis, but you can watch Universe. That's very strange.
They should be dumping Atlantis right now on Amazon to compete with the all of the water-based things that are taking over right now between Avatar, Aquaman, and Black Panther 2.
Oh, and
Th-
you
They
can
need to
get
be like, look, we have our own Atlantis.
you can also get all of SG-1 for $100 on Blu-ray, no less. Is that Region 1? It looks
Oh
like it
wow.
is. That's really cool.
Of 10 seasons?
Um,
That's
I have to tell you though,
good.
that's not the collection I would want, but because the original one had a really cool, it had a really pretty box. I don't care that it's on DVD. I still want that. It's not like they've remastered it. It's not going to look that much better on Blu-ray. That's how I'd want it. I had another friend that had that box, and I was like, I really want that. I should prioritize these shows and finally buy them at some point. But that's like $250 for the few people on Amazon that have it. So I assume that's rarer now and hard to get. I wish I got my hands on it when it was cheaper, but I should look into that and see if somebody has it somewhere, eBay or Facebook Marketplace or something cheaper. Because I always wanted that, and I should get. Oh, and real quick, because I don't know when I'm ever going to get to talk about Stargate again. I bought my wife, she hasn't worn it in a long time, but I bought my wife a long time ago a Stargate necklace. It's the gate on a necklace, and it's really cool.
Oh, cool. That's pretty awesome. You should buy her the little like worm thing. Be like, here, carve an X into your stomach.
You always come up with the most romantic ideas.
Yeah, I'm a true romantic at heart, really.
Alex says, I think the shows are often on Amazon because they still have to honor the deals MGM had before.
Well, yeah, of course. It's just how long ago did they buy Amazon? Like, I feel like it was a while ago, and some of that would be running out by now, but obviously not.
Well,
Oh wait, hold on. I have
yeah.
one last
You
point.
say, are you
Sorry,
good or?
sorry. Um, I had a realization watching this, which is that you hate military stuff unless it's in sci-fi, because so much like big sci-fi stuff is kind of military, and like this is more so than something like Star Trek, where Star Trek's kind of like on the fence, like it's like an updated Navy type thing. And I don't know, that was just like a fun observation I noticed.
Are you sorry, I was reading comments, so I missed some of the beginning of what you just said. So, are you saying I'm a walking contradiction?
Yeah.
Are you? Are you talking about me specifically? Yeah. So I'm really superficial in my dislike for military things. I find characters in matching fatigues boring looking.
Mhm.
That's my whole thing. Is I don't like that color scheme. And I don't like the woods.
Yeah.
And that probably has something to do with why I never finished Stargate. I have to be honest with you. That probably does actually have something to do with it. But like, I really like the stories and I really like the look of the show. It's just, but they all walk around in fatigues. I've
Well, that's why
loosened
you
up on
hate
that.
X3. You got the woods and the
I know,
military.
yeah, and the movie sucks. Even beyond that, with Star Trek, it's simply that it's not exactly military. It's
It's
peacekeeping
removed,
operations a
but
little different, but also its primary colors, they don't look like soldiers.
yeah, they're all wearing like the Wiggles outfits.
They have a big tank. They have a big tank in Stargate that goes through the Stargate that brings like all their like water and supplies and stuff. And I don't know if you noticed it on the side, but it's called the Fred. It's FRED. It's an acronym. And I looked
Oh,
up that
weird.
acronym today. Let me look at it again. Yeah, here it is. Stargate Fred. It's still saved in my searches. Field Remote Expeditionary Device. The Fred.
I hope whatever episode that first appears in.
No, we just saw it. It's in the pilot. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah. Well, I hope like in the description for the pilot, it specifically like lists it out like that, the way that the Avengers Disney Plus one does with Shield.
That's great. Yeah, and it's like so not even remotely important that you know that.
Mhm. Absolutely. Who
Well,
cares?
are you good? Are we done?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I just had that little aside. I was like, I got to make sure to throw that out.
No, if you hadn't done that, I couldn't have talked about Fred. I
That's
brought that
true.
up
We
to
all
my
want to talk
son.
about Fred.
I brought that up to my son Freddie today. He has this big hang. He's 8, and he hates it when anything has his name. He just has this huge hang up with it. If you ever bring up like he won't watch the Flintstones because the main character is named Fred Flintstone.
I mean, he's not missing much.
And I brought this up. I was like, I was telling Jason about it. I wasn't even thinking about the fact that Freddie was in the room. I just thought it was funny. I was like, "Hey, Jason, I was watching Stargate yesterday, and it's got this tank that's called the Fred." And just right behind me, I hear Freddie going, "Hey, next week we're gonna do a comic book, Austin. We're gonna read a Doctor Strange miniseries that Carl Maxey asked us for. It's
Oh, are
Doctor
we doing
Strange
the Oath?
Last Days of Magic. No, I've reviewed The
Oh.
Oath before, but we're doing Last Days of Magic.
Okay, I must be thinking of that. I just assumed it was the Oath because that's like one of those big comic stories.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that might have been requested when I did it too. I don't remember, but I have reviewed that for whatever reason. I don't remember much about it. I liked it. Whatever. I've slept since then. I've reviewed Stargate now since then. But Last Days of Magic. We'll see if that's any good. I don't know anything about that because I'm just
Yeah, I don't know.
reading what we have here, and it looks
I
like
love
we're
me some
doing.
Doctor Strange though.
Yeah, and it looks like we're doing quite a bit of comics over the next few weeks. So
Oh, cool.
not just comics, but a little bit. So look
Heck
forward
yeah.
to it, folks.
And we're doing Video Game Movie Mania on Friday.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. Thanks for the plug with that. Yes, Friday night, 10 Central. What movie are we finally going to do a blind commentary on?
The Wizard. Sorry, I had like a brain fart because you said Friday night, and my brain like filled it in from the conversation we had earlier, and it was like Freddy night. Like it's just you trying to make a pun to annoy Freddy.
It's an acronym about
A whole day for me.
I don't know what it is about that movie. I have a really hard time remembering The Wizard.
The only thing I know about that movie, besides it's just a commercial,
So you've
is...
never seen it?
No.
That's
all I
exciting.
know is the
California.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I know. And Mario 3, because my dad talks about that pretty often.
Oh, see, I don't want to give away anything. Do you know about the big line that the girl has in that?
Oh, I know that she's got a line, but I can't remember it.
The "You Touch My Breast" line. Do you know about that?
Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like I know she's got like a line.
Well, because I think that's in the AVGN review. You've probably seen that.
Yeah, and I saw the Nostalgia Critic review back in the day. Like I've seen stuff that talks about it, but not in like a decade. So that'll be fun.
These reviews, these kind of podcast conversations are usually about an hour long, and then there's usually another like 15 or 20 minutes of nothing having to do with what we just talked about. Thanks a lot for being here, folks. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for being here live, and thanks again for the super chats, guys. And we will see you again on Friday and tomorrow night in the Captain Logan show. DJ is not going to be around; he's going out of town for his birthday. But I'm going to have a special guest, Vince. So it's going to be just me and Vince on camera for 2 hours tomorrow night without a moderator. Pop in and hang out with us. Say hello to Vince. He hasn't been on the channel in a really long time, and he's looking forward to it. And I know some of you guys are as well. So yeah, we're doing lots of fun things coming back. Finally, full tilt, and I'm overextended. I'm making too many videos, but I'm having a really good time with it. So anyway, thanks again, guys. We'll see you later. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin. The Day Goes.
Yep.
Bye, folks.
And I'm Vince.
Bye, everybody.